Hello everyone. This is basically exam readiness session, or just like a brief overview of the HashiCorp Terraform certification that I recently passed. So it has been released very recently, I think last week, and so this was in beta for a long while, and I was waiting for this because I've been using Terraform for about 1.5 years now. Okay, so let's get to the basics. So this is where you have to come, this URL. Okay, to register for the exam, you do a Google on a HashiCorp Terraform certification, and this is where you get. Okay, so two sections: register for the exam, prepare for the exam. You click on the register for the exam and just register for the exam. This is an online proctored exam. There is no way to go to the test center and take this exam, which is good also because due to this COVID-19, it's very unlikely that you will be able to go. Okay, so there is someone called on-demand questionnaire or some provider who is quite good. So they will ask you for some sort of a basic ID, like passport works perfectly, and you can just give just like any other online proctored exam. So I'm not spending too much time there. Okay, now the basic thing that you have to know is that it is being tested on Terraform 0.12. So some of us who might have been using Terraform 0.11, there are a lot of new things in Terraform 0.12 for each object and stuff like that. So be, pre be pretty sure that there will be questions which are going to test whether you have used Terraform 0.12 or not. Okay. So it's a multiple choice question. So first of all, no practicals. Okay, but yes, I got some questions where you had to write the command in a box. So for example, they have provided a lot of data, like a lot of sets, like which is the command that you should use. And for example, you are writing Terraform console in the box, or for example, Terraform plan minus O and stuff like that. So what you have to know here is that all variations, okay, of the final answer are accepted. Okay, so don't worry that much that this command can be written in 5 to 7 ways. You can just write one of the ways and you should be okay with it. So the duration is 1 hour 60 minutes. The number of questions varies. I got 57 questions, I think. Okay, so I heard from a few people that they got 58 questions also. So 57 to 58 questions in 1 hour. Normally it will look a lot tough because every question is under a minute, right? But frankly speaking, I took the exam and went out in 15 minutes. It is a very simple exam. Honestly, I was a little bit disappointed. I thought that the exam will be a little bit more tougher, but it's quite a simple exam. But that being said, if you prepare for this exam, then it is going to give you a very holistic overview for Terraform in overall, because the things on which this exam is testing you, they are very good to know and very pertinent. Okay, so the price is 70.50 USD, but after that you add some tax, so it will take you around 88 USD, which is something around 6,500 to 6,800 Indian rupees. The language is English and the expiration of the this 2 years. So that's okay. Now see, this is where it gets interesting. What are the exam objectives and how to go about taking this exam? So for there are two cases here. Somebody who has been using Terraform extensively. So if you are using Terraform extensively, just scan through the objectives. Many of the objectives you'll already know. Some of them, for example, Terraform Cloud, Terraform Enterprise, remote runs, how workspaces are managed between Terraform Cloud and CLI workspaces. Those things which you might not have used in your day-to-day work, you might have to study. For guys who are using, so for those guys who have been using Terraform, it will take you 3 to 4 days maximum to get ready and take the exam, because it's a very basic exam. For the guys who have used Terraform a little but not a lot, they know the basic concept of Terraform. They might have created a few resources in Terraform here and there, but have not been extensively using Terraform for an enterprise provisioning project. It will take you another 3 4 days. Okay, so you go. So I will show you what you have to do. It's quite easy, and also I'm planning to write some detailed sections or detailed blocks on each of the sections. But overall, it's very easy. For the guys who are new to Terraform, okay, for the guys who are new to Terraform and want to learn Terraform, and along with that, after the learning, take the exam. So this is kind of like, for example, to learn a new tool, you are setting that objective of let's get certified. Then it should take you around 3 weeks minimum, okay, because you need to learn Terraform and also apply. But there's a very good way to do it. Okay, so these are the exam objectives. Okay, so these are the exam objectives. So I will tell you a little bit about how the questions came in alongside these objects. But before that, how to prepare? So Terraform has two very good resources to prepare. Okay, so one is the study guide. So this is a very good resource. So if you come here, you will see this is all the things that the Terraform certification exam is saying that it will ask you about. All of them are stored here. Basically, these are all links to their actual documentation. So if you basically go through this, okay, if you actually go through this, it's a complete, I completely guarantee that you will pass the exam. Okay, along with that, there is this exam review section also. So exam review section is just like, it is also reference to the study guide here and there. Okay, so what I think you should do, you should first follow the study guide. Okay, to get an overall idea of all of this concept, and then you might do the exam review section. Okay, so now let's come to some of the things that are interesting. Okay, so one of the things that you should know when you are going to do this is the concept of why Terraform required provider and required version constraints are used. So questions will come from it. Okay, so what is this? For example, if you go to this provider section, okay, provider section, you will see this is normal Azure RM or Google Cloud providers and stuff like that. But along with that, there is something that is quite new. Okay, so this is required underscore providers. So this is how to constrain a provider version. Similarly, how to constrain the Terraform version, that only my code should only use Terraform 0.12. So check this version, check this section a little bit in depth, because questions are going to come from this for sure. Another thing that questions are going to come from, okay, is basically this Terraform settings. Okay, so this Terraform settings is basically just like I was saying, how to configure the Terraform backend, the Terraform specific settings, how to specify the required Terraform version. Okay, greater than equal to 2.7.0 with the provider. Also note this operator, pessimistic constraint operator, how it operates. This means basically 0.9. So this operator to 0.9 is equivalent to greater than equal to 0.9 and less than 1.0. So questions can come like, so if the provider version is providers pessimistic operator 0.11, which of the below provider versions are actually allowed and stuff like that. Okay, so this is something you need to know. Okay, secondly, what you must know is, for example, the style convention. A few questions can come from the style convention. Okay, for example, you should indent two spaces at each nesting level. Okay, when multiple arguments with single line values, you should align their equal to signs and stuff like that. Okay, so very good. Now, the other parts which are very important also is basically in the module section. Okay, in the module section, there is this concept of how to call a child modules, modeling module composition. Okay, how to get output from one module and use it in another module. All those concepts are also quite important for you to know. Now, so overall Terraform, obviously you need to know what is Yak and all of these things. Okay, how, and the very important thing, because many people are using Terraform, they're only using local state. Many people don't use Terraform remote state. So what is the purpose of Terraform state? So basically this entire state section in the Terraform documentation, it is very important to know. So the complete state. So what is Terraform state? What is its purpose? Okay, how to lock a state, how to handle remote state, how to handle sensitive data in state, and also very important is how to import new resources into Terraform state. So many questions can come from that. For example, you have a few new resources which were not being managed by Terraform. How can you basically start managing them using Terraform? Okay, so this is very important. Similarly, another thing that is important, okay, is provisioners. So in provisioners, you will need to know basically local X provisioner and remote X provisioner. These two are the main provisioner questions that will come in the section, in the exam. Okay. Now in the module part, as I told you, the module composition is very important. How the module should be structured. Question might come like how many different type, how much level of nesting is approved by Terraform. So the answer is one. They normally apply one, allow only single level of nesting. Allow means they suggest. Okay, it's just a suggestion. And another thing will be basically, for example, that what are the different types of source of a module, how, for example, a tag in your module, in your actual GitHub repo, can be tagged to the module, and all those things can, questions can also come. So after that, so for example, all of this is okay, like infrastructure as code. So as I told you, purpose of Terraform state, very important. Terraform settings I have already shown, so Terraform settings is also important, like required version, provider, and this and that. Okay. Now provisioners. Why? So this section is also a very good read. Provisioners are last resort. Why should we not use provisioner normally? And how configuration management tools are not the way to go forward, and Packard and immutable images should be used and stuff like that. Now coming to the command section. So some commands are important. Taint, very important. Read about it. Difference between taint, whether taint will actually destroy a resource just at that moment. No, it will not. It will basically mark that resource for deletion upon the next plan. So when you run that plan next time, it will show that resource to be deleted. So I got questions from that. Okay. Terraform for fmt command, what it does. Terraform console command. Okay, so these are very important commands for Terraform validate, all of this. Obviously workspaces, you will get a lot of questions on workspaces. Also, how to select a new workspace. Terraform select, how to create a new workspace, and all those basic commands. Debugging Terraform, so how to set the log in Terraform. Tf underscore log environment variable needs to set to a value, like for example trace. How to handle environment variables in Terraform. Okay, all of these sections will be useful. Code Terraform workflow is obviously very important. Okay, then commands, basically all of these sections here will be important. Now what I wanted to know is that note is that basically for most of these things you are already using it on a day-to-day basis, but some commands you might not be using, like as I said, fmt, taint, for example. Terraform validate, what does this, what is the difference between validate and apply. Terraform refresh, to delete something from state, what do I use? I use Terraform state rm. Okay, and all of this. So Terraform state comments, very important. I got 2 to 3 questions on the Terraform state comment. Now as I told you, the maintain state, all of this, sensitive state, all of those things, backend type state logging is very important. How does Terraform interact with Vault? Okay, just check this part a little bit in depth, because there might be some questions. I did not get any, but there can be some questions on how Terraform and Vault interacts with each other, because both of them are HashiCorp products. Okay, how secrets can be stored, whether on using Terraform Vault, whether on using HashiCorp Vault, Terraform state is stored or not. Yes, Terraform secrets are stored actually in the state file even. Okay, so all of these things, resource addressing. Okay, now my question is basically what sections you will not know. So know Terraform enterprise. Okay, you don't need to know Terraform enterprise in depth. Know what it is, what are the features that it provides which is not available in Terraform cloud, and also not available in the open source Terraform. Also how installation is happening, what is the backend for clustered installation. So everything regarding Terraform enterprise, the basic installation and its basic features you need to know. Okay, now coming to Centellian, you don't need to know in depth what it does. It is a policy as code framework and stuff like that, very basic. It is basically an offering that is provided as part of the Terraform enterprise. Okay, and Terraform cloud, basically the governance package, all of this is important. Now coming to Terraform Cloud. This is quite an important part. So Terraform Cloud is a PaaS offering from HashiCorp for running Terraform very constructively. Okay, so know about this. How does Terraform Cloud operate? How do you authenticate to the Terraform Cloud using the API token? Basically, where do you need to mention the token? You need to mention in the Terraform CLI config file. Okay, all of these things. How are workspaces different in Terraform cloud than in normal actual open source Terraform? Okay, what is the concept of a remote run in Terraform workspace? Okay, how can it be integrated, for example, to a VCS? What are the VCS providers that are supported? What is the concept of an internal private module registry in Terraform cloud? So all of these concepts you should to know. So my brief thing would be, first, learn a little bit about Terraform Cloud and Terraform Enterprise. Go via their documentation. For Terraform Cloud, you can do a little bit here and there on the free part also. Okay, it's not needed for this exam truly, but you will get 6 to 7 questions on Terraform Cloud and Terraform Enterprise for sure out of those 15. So even if you say that I will not learn this because this is something that I'm not using, if you just learn the Terraform part also, you are going to pass. For the Terraform part, know about state, know about all the different state commands, know about the different Terraform operations. Okay, like init, apply, how they differ, what does what. Know about basically the remote backend, very important. Know about all the provisioners, remote X, local X, the providers, how to do an alias of providers. Okay, like if you have 2 different providers, required version settings, the syntax, how to use inputs, outputs, module composition. All of those concepts you need to know for basically being able to take the exam. So what I am going to do in the next few videos is basically I'm going to prepare some sample questions, okay, which I think will basically be a good fit for the discussion, and I'm going to share them also. So overall, it's a very basic exam. If you guys have been using Terraform previously quite extensively, then you can just sit for the exam and you are going to pass for sure. If you have not used that one, just go through this. The good thing about this exam is the thing that it encompasses a lot of topics, which gives you a very good breadth, not might be depth, but a good breadth of everything that you can do with Terraform, okay, which is very important. It is good, very imperative that you know the tool in detail, okay, all of the basic workflows and basic processes that Terraform can do, the basic commands, for example Terraform functions like zip map, flatten, dynamic blocks. And also note that there are new things in Terraform 0.12 which it is very important that you need to know. For example, structural data types, collection data types, structural data types contain object, tuple, how they are different, how type conversion happens, those concepts. These two documentation should be enough. Normally you will not need to go through another 14 to 16-hour course to pass this exam. If you get any sample papers or sample questions, that would be also quite good. I am also thinking about creating something, so I will keep you posted, but that is it for now. So if you have any specific questions, just let me know and I will be very happy to help you guys out. So best of luck whoever is going to take this exam. Thank you.